Heal us today. Heal our hearts, our minds, our bodies. Yes, Lord, deliver us. Deliver us from anything that would separate us from you today. Draw us close to you. Anoint Brother Sky as he comes and brings us your word. Anoint Brother Orson, Lord. Yes, Lord, as they come to bring your word today. Let an anointing touch every heart. We praise you for it. In Jesus' name. In Jesus' name. In Jesus' name. Amen. God bless you. That's it. Give the Lord a good hand. Brother Sky, bring us the word.
Thank you, Pastor. Doesn't everyone love this guy? He's an awesome pastor. I'm so appreciative of him. Thank you, Pastor, for giving me this opportunity to speak today. I appreciate it. He always pushes me to continue to grow, to be better. And I think he does that for each and every one of us, just because he loves us so much, just like God loves us. I'm so appreciative. Today, Pastor asked me to speak on becoming a servant. There's a few things I wanted to just mention. You can be seated. We're going to read the word in a minute. A few things I wanted to just call out before we get started about being a servant. Specifically, the first thing is being a servant takes a lot of love and a lot of patience and a lot of humility and you can really tell when someone's a servant if you've ever seen someone and said, that person has a sweet spirit, that person has a servant's heart. It's that sweet spirit, that same sweet spirit that Jesus had, where when he was teaching and preaching and ministering to the people and meeting their needs first, right? And that it's that same sweet spirit that we need in us. The key thing for being a servant is it takes love. Not just any love, but God's love. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him shall have everlasting life. There's a song called Reckless Love that goes like this. It says, "Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. It chases me down, fights till I'm found. It leaves the 99. I couldn't earn it. I don't deserve it. Still, you give yourself away. The overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God." And that's that kind of love that sacrifices, that is not self-serving, but serving others. And that's what we need, to be servants. And that's what I see Pastor do day in, day out. And it's awesome. And so today I'm going to talk about the parable of the talents. So if we could stand for the reading of the word. If we can turn to Matthew 25, verse 14. We're going to start there, and we'll kind of continue through the chapter, through the message, but you don't have to stand for the whole thing. "For the kingdom of heaven is as a man traveling into a far country, who called his own servants and delivered unto them his goods. And unto one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, to another 1, to every man according to his several ability. And straightway took his journey." And so in this chapter, it talks about this master giving his servants talents, right? And so talents are a form of money, but really, in this parable, it's talking about what God has given us, right? And it's what we can invest in God's kingdom. And so what the master gives to his servants is what God gives to us that we can invest in God's kingdom. And so when the master gives his servants these talents, his expectation is that they return to him with having invested these talents and having grown it, right? Grown his kingdom. And so in the same way, when God gives us talents and abilities, and when God gives us, he expects us to invest it in his kingdom. And so the servants return to the master at that point in time, and the story continues. Matthew 25, verse 20. "And so he that had received 5 talents came and brought other 5 talents, saying, Lord, thou deliveredst unto me 5 talents. Behold, I have gained beside them 5 talents more. His Lord said unto him, Well done, thou good and faithful servant. Thou hast been faithful over a few things. I will make thee ruler over many things. Enter thou into the joy of thy Lord. And so, those are the words that we're hoping to hear when we reach those gates upstairs. Well done, thou good and faithful servant. You can be seated. And the story continues. And so the second servant also invested what he had been given and gave the increase to his master. And again, the master says, Well done, thou good and faithful servant. And then the third servant, we have a slightly different story. So Matthew 25:24 reads, Then he which had received the 1 talent came and said, Lord, I knew thee that thou art a hard man, reaping where thou hast not sown, and gathering where thou hast not strawed. And I was afraid, and went and hid thy talent in the earth. Lo, there thou hast that is thine. And so this servant, instead of investing the talent, he buried it. And so God had given him just a little, not as much as others, right? Others had great abilities, had great, they were really good with investing money. They were really good with investing in God's kingdom, right? They can do many things. Like in today's world, that would be someone like, this person is going to be a preacher, a missionary. They're going to go out and do great things for God. And then there's this other person he's okay, right? He'll maybe be a praise singer. He'll do something in God's kingdom, right? And then another person who was given a little, right? He makes it to church. He comes to church. He has something that he can give, but it's just a little, and he doesn't really know where he fits in God's kingdom. And he's coming to church, and he's trying not to do anything wrong. And he comes to church on Sundays. He provides for his family. He follows the laws. He protects his salvation, and he's a good person. He didn't have much to offer. He just wanted to make it to heaven and be good to his family and not be the person he was before. He wanted to just survive. And there's more to God's kingdom, but there's more to being a Christian than surviving. Amen. And so today, again, I'm talking to you about becoming a servant. And so whether you have been given little from God or whether you have been given a lot from God, we are all called to invest in his kingdom. Amen. And so the man that had been given a little, he returned to the master, and he hadn't done anything with the money. He just hadn't lost it, right? He was a good Christian. He didn't really do anything. He never won any lost. He never like fed the poor that were in the church or did X, Y, or Z. He showed up to church on Sunday. He didn't cuss. He didn't go out to the strip club. He was the standard Christian. But the master, the Lord, in Matthew 25:26, his Lord answered and said unto him, Thou wicked and slothful servant, thou knewest that I reap where I sowed not, and gather where I have not strawed. Thou oughtest therefore to have put my money to the exchangers, and then at my coming I should have received my own with usury. Take therefore the talent from him, and give it unto him which hath 10 talents. For unto every one that hath shall be given, and he shall have abundance. But from him that hath not shall be taken away, even that which he hath. And cast ye the unprofitable servant into outer darkness. There shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. And so because this servant didn't invest, didn't do anything with it, right? God had given him a little bit, and he didn't even do anything with that. God cast him out into outer darkness, and where there's weeping and gnashing of teeth. And I think we all know where that is. Yeah. And so what this is telling us is that we all have to be servants in God's kingdom, and we all have to invest, whether it's whatever little we have or if we have a lot. Like we're all called to do that. And if we don't do that, there might be a different answer when we reach that gate. It's that important. And so, to reach heaven, we must be servants. We must invest in what God has given us into the kingdom of heaven. And so, you may have thought you can skate by and reach heaven just by being a good person and not hurting anyone. And I know some people that are not Christians that believe this, and I know some Christians that believe this, but I'm telling you, it takes more than that. We gotta invest. We gotta be sold out for Jesus. We gotta be sold out. And so a Christian must be a servant to reach heaven, to reach God's kingdom. We must invest what we have into the kingdom of God, and we must be faithful. And so when he says, Well done, thou good and faithful servant, The servant was good because he invested in God's kingdom. He was faithful because he did as his master asked. He did it consistently. And he was a servant because he served, right? And so it says in 1 Corinthians 4:2, moreover, it is required in stewards that a man be found faithful. So we are required to be found faithful. And it says a steward, right? So God has given each of us something. So we are stewards. We are stewards in God's kingdom. He has a purpose and a plan for each of us, whether little or great. And we are stewards over that. And if we invested in God's kingdom, then we will be found faithful. And so, faithfulness. So being a servant also requires faithfulness. I know one thing. Another word for servant, or that's also defined as being a servant or serving, is ministry. And so there's a direct, when I say investing in God's kingdom, there's a direct correlation with servanthood and investing in God's kingdom and ministry. And so being faithful in ministry is another area. And so I know when in ministry, there's usually some kind of target on your back. Pastor says it all the time, the more stuff he's involved in, that's just one more target. But when he's doing God's work, he just loves it. So when we're in ministry, the devil likes to try to take our attention off of what we're doing. Tries to distract us, tries to hurt us, tries to offend us, tries to cause division between us, right? And so these things all get into our heart. They rise up, they grow, they fester if we don't squash it right away, and it can kill our ministry. But we got to be faithful in our ministry. We can't just quit because we're hurt, or quit because we're offended, or quit because we don't see our worth that God sees. You know, when you're a servant or when you're in ministry, to have that servant's heart, you can really tell if you have a servant's heart when you're treated like a servant. Like how you react when you're treated like a servant, that tells you if you have a servant's heart. If you're hurt, if you're offended, when someone runs over you, walks over you, well, a servant is not about their own interests. It's not about how they feel. It's about who they're serving feels. It's about serving Jesus and reaching the lost. And if the lost can be prickly, right? And even the saved can be prickly.
Come on.
We all got rough edges. Anybody met a Christian with rough edges? I mean, there's a ton of God's love in this place. I know there's, because Pastor has so much of God's love, I know that spreads to the entire church, and we each grow and grow in it. But while we're growing, we still have some rough edges that get ironed out along the way. And so when in ministry, we can be hurt, we can be offended, we can we can have division between us and others, but we can't just quit because of that. That's something that we have to figure out at the altar between us and God. How can we overcome that, right? How can we get it on the altar? How can we be changed, right? Because I know some people will say, I can't change, I can't get over this, I can't do it. But God's the one that can do the change. You can't do it. You're right. You can't do it. Some things it's so hard to get past, to get over it, but it takes a move of God to change us and to heal us. And so, the enemy's oldest and favorite tactic for getting people to not reach heaven is to get them to quit, to give up. Right? And so, and that spirit is the spirit of suicide. It's that spirit that Judas had, right? And he gave up, but if he hadn't given up, there was still hope for him to reach heaven, But that spirit of suicide, if he can get us to give up on going to church, if he can get us to give up on being a Christian, to give up on being a servant, to give up on our ministry, it's one step closer, right? And if we don't come back, then that's it. We don't reach heaven. But there's always hope. There's always hope as long as we get back up, as long as we get back to the altar, as long as we keep going. I know so many people that I've heard it. I've heard it. Like, I just wish I could quit. I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to deal with this anymore. I hate this. But being a servant, it's not only that servant's heart, being like how you react to being a servant, but like something I've heard told is the rank. Like, when you get to a higher position, that doesn't mean that you have like everything in the world. Like, rank just means that you're serving the people above you and below you. It's still being a servant, and now it's both ways instead of just the people above you. and so it's still a servant, and we have to treat it with that same attitude. So if the devil can get us to quit or cause division between us and others in ministry, he wins. He wins against us, against the souls that we can impact, against our walk with God, and he wants nothing more than for us to stop growing, which, guess what? If you're struggling, if there's something that you're struggling with, whether it's ministry or with your walk with God, that's the one thing you need to overcome in order to keep growing in God. That's what you need to get to the altar for. It's not time to quit. It's time to push ahead. It's time to get that out of your system, get that out of your heart, whatever it is, because that's where you need to grow in order to reach the next level in God's plan for your life. And so he wants nothing more than for us to stop growing, to give up, to not realize our potential in God. It's when there's the most resistance, the most sacrifice, that the most growth in ministry can come out of it. If God told each of us exactly how many souls we could win, how many people we could influence, how many people would receive the Holy Ghost, right? How many hearts would be healed, bodies healed, faith restored, if we just kept going in what we were doing, if we just kept going in our ministry. Would you quit? Would you still quit? Or would you say, you know what? That's worth it. That's worth it. My influence that God has put a plan for, that's worth it. I don't care what it takes. I'm going to squash this. I'm going to get rid of this at the altar. I don't care what it takes. Because there are people that are lost. There are people that are hurting. There are people that need what God is wanting to do through me. And I got to take some pride, I got to take some flesh, I got to take some stuff that's in my heart, I got to get healed, I got to be ministered to. I don't care what you got to do. If you got to go to pastor, if you got to go to the altar, if you got to go to a leader in this church and say, there's something going on in my heart, there's something going on in here, and I need your prayer, I need your help, I need to get over this. If you need to go to a brother or sister and say, I just can't get past this, I need to talk to you, there's just something that we got to work out, you got to do that. Your ministry depends on it. The souls depend on it. It's not time to quit. It's time to move forward. It's time to grow. It's time to push past it. It's not. If you've been stalled, you know exactly what your next step is. Find a leader, find an altar, whatever it is. God has a plan for you, and he has souls waiting to be ministered to be impacted. There are people that when you get past this, the church will continue to move to the next level. The church will continue to move, not just you. When we are united, what can the enemy do? God is tying us together. What can the enemy do? He wants us divided. He wants us split up. He wants us hurt, offended. He wants us crippled. He wants us not growing. But if we can get past whatever this is, then you will move forward. The church will move forward. The souls will be blessed, impacted, saved. There's a reason this is here. There's a reason you're going through this. When you can get past it, that's when you can use your testimony to reach even more people.
Come on.
And don't even get me started on testimony. If you're hiding your testimony, shame on you. Your testimony is what can minister to people. What you've gone through, what God has saved you from, is what someone else is dealing with. When the Spirit tells you to say it, say it. Hallelujah. Sneak a preach. And so we just need to lay our hurts and offenses at the altar. We need to talk to our leaders. We need to get whatever it is out between us and someone else. If we just let it fester in there, it's just going to fester in there forever, and you're going to be dying spiritually. You're not going to be able to grow. Those souls are just going to keep on waiting out there, you know? But you got to get it out. You got to get it out of your system. You got to move forward. This is your opportunity to grow. And so if you're thinking of quitting right now, whether it's ministry or the church or God or giving up on life, If you do that, the devil wins. It's not the answer. I'm telling you. He gets what he wants. His whispering in your ear has succeeded. He tries to tell that to each of us. And so you need to get yourself to an altar, to a pastor or leader in the church, or even a servant in the church that you know has a walk with God and loves and prays. There's many of them here. There's many of them here. And so this is what the church is for, And so if you can find God in the midst of this, God can heal your heart, can heal your ministry, heal your life, so you can move on and grow and be used by God and reach your potential, right? And you can be the servant that God has purposed for you, and you can be investing in God, investing in God's kingdom like He has designed us to, right? And we need to do that in order to even reach heaven. We have to be servants. We have to be sold out. There's no halfway. There's no, I was a decent Christian, And so sometimes we just need to be ministered unto in order to minister to others. But just don't let the devil win, all right? Don't let the devil win. I think I'm at time. I had another half message. God bless you all.
Hallelujah. Let's all stand. Let's raise our hands and thank God for the word that we just heard. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. It's not time to quit. It's time to move forward. Many more souls are going to be saved. Going to be a great harvest in this city. And we are the ones that God has chosen to be a part of it. Great job. Brother Wilson, come and bring us part 2.